The radio knows my name. The radio sat on my nightstand, old and chipped, its dials stiff with age. I'd found it in the attic last week, buried under moth-eaten blankets. It was a relic, probably my grandfather's, with a cracked leather case and a tuning needle that wobbled. I liked it though. It felt like a piece of history. At night, I'd twist the knob, chasing faint music through the static. Sometimes, I'd catch a jazz tune or a preacher's voice, distant and tinny. It was comforting, in a way, like the house was alive. Last night, it wasn't comforting. I'd been half asleep, the room dark except for the radio's amber glow. The static was loud, a rough hiss that filled the air. I reached to turn it off, my hand sluggish. Then it came, a whisper, soft but clear. My name. Evelyn. I froze, fingers hovering over the dial. The static crackled, and it said it again. Evelyn. Not a shout, not a plea. Just my name, like someone testing it out. I yanked the plug from the wall. The radio went dead, the glow fading. My heart thudded. I told myself it was a dream, or maybe a station bleeding through. Old radios did that, right? Picked up stray signals? I lay back, staring at the ceiling, willing my pulse to slow. The house was silent, but it felt wrong. Too quiet. Like it was holding its breath. Morning came, gray and damp. I didn't touch the radio. It sat there, unplugged, its cord coiled like a snake. I went about my day, coffee, emails, a walk to the corner store. But my eyes kept drifting to it. By afternoon, I was annoyed with myself. It was just a radio. I'd imagined it. Or misheard. I plugged it back in, defiantly, and spun the dial. Static, then a talk show, then static again. Nothing unusual. I laughed, a little too loud. That night, I left it on volume low. I don't know why. Maybe to prove something. The static hummed, a steady drone. I read a book, the pages lit by my lamp. Around midnight, the hiss shifted. It wasn't just noise anymore. There was a rhythm to it, like breathing. I set the book down, my mouth dry. The whisper came again. Evelyn. Slow, deliberate. I turned the volume up, my hand shaking. The static surged, and the voice was clearer now. Not one voice, two. Or three. Overlapping, saying my name in a jagged chorus. I switched it off. The silence was worse. I unplugged it, shoved it in a drawer, and locked it. I didn't sleep. Every creak in the house was a footstep. Every gust of wind was a breath. I kept seeing the radio in my mind, its dial glowing, its speaker pulsing. By dawn, I was exhausted. I opened the drawer, half expecting the radio to be gone. It was there, silent and ordinary. I took it to the garage, buried it in a box of tools. I told myself that was the end of it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd done something wrong. Like I'd invited something in. I avoided the radio for days. Work kept me busy, and I stayed out late dodging the house. But nights were hard. I'd lie awake, listening. The house felt different now. The air was heavy, the shadows sharper. Once I thought I heard static from the living room. I checked, nothing. Just my imagination, I said. But I didn't believe it. Yesterday, I found the radio again. Not in the garage, but on my kitchen counter. I hadn't touched it. I live alone. My hands went cold. I stared at it, its leather case gleaming under the fluorescent light. I didn't plug it in. I didn't dare. But as I stood there, the static started. Faint, at first, like it was coming from inside my skull. Then louder. And my name. Evelyn. Not from the radio anymore. From the walls, the floor, the air. I ran to the basement door, threw the radio inside, and locked it. The static followed me upstairs. It's in my head now, constant, a hiss that never escapes. And the voices, they're not just saying my name anymore. They're closer. They're telling me something I don't want to hear. Something about me. Something I've done. I'm writing this in my bedroom, the door locked. The static's louder now. It's not coming from the basement. It's here in the room. I don't know what to do. I don't think I can make it stop. I didn't sleep after that night. The static clung to me, a parasite I couldn't shake. By morning, I was raw, my eyes had been scraped with sand. The house felt like a stranger's. I moved through it cautiously, avoiding corners. The basement door stayed locked. I didn't check on the radio. I didn't want to know if it was still there. I needed air. I needed people. I grabbed my keys and drove to town, the radio's hiss still faint in my ears. The diner was busy, clinking mugs and laughter. I sat at the counter, ordered pancakes I didn't touch. The normalcy helped, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. I noticed Mrs. Hargrove at the counter across from me, my neighbor, sipping tea. She was in her 70s, with a face like crumpled paper and eyes that always seemed to see too much. We'd waved before, but never talked much. I don't know what made me speak to her. Desperation, maybe? Mrs. Hargrove, you ever hear things? My voice was too loud. I lowered it. Like in your house? At night? She set her mug down slowly. Her eyes narrowed, pinning me. What kind of things, Evelyn? I hesitated. Saying it aloud felt like admitting something dangerous. Static. From a radio. And voices. Her face changed. Not fear, but recognition. She leaned in, her voice a rasp. You found it, didn't you? That old set in your attic? I nodded, my stomach dropping. How'd you know? She glanced around, then back at me. That house of yours, it's got a history. Things linger there. That radio's no good. It listens, Evelyn. And sometimes it talks back. I laughed, nervous. It's just a radio. No. Her voice was sharp, cutting me off. It's not. It's a door. You turned it on, didn't you? She didn't wait for an answer. It's awake now. It knows you. I felt sick. Knows me? What does that mean? She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tapped the counter unsteady. Years ago, someone lived in your house. A man. Kept to himself. He had that radio. Played it all the time. One night, he was gone. Left the radio behind, still playing. Just static. Just static. I waited breathless. She shook her head. Get rid of it, Evelyn. Don't touch it, don't smash it. Bury it somewhere far. And don't listen. Whatever you do, don't listen. I drove home in a fog. Her words looped in my head, tangling with the static. Bury it. Don't listen. I wanted to laugh it off, call her senile. But I couldn't. Not after last night. Not when I could still hear my name whispered in that awful chorus. The house was waiting when I pulled up. It looked normal, peeling paint, sagging porch. But it felt wrong, like it was holding a secret. I didn't go to the basement. Instead, I checked every room, half expecting to find the radio somewhere else again. It wasn't there. The static in my head was quieter now, but never gone. It pulsed patient. I tried to work, but my emails blurred together. I kept thinking about what Mrs. Hargrove said. A man. Gone. The radio's still playing. I searched online for the history of my house. Nothing. Just property records. No missing persons, no news stories. But the internet didn't feel trustworthy anymore. It felt like it was hiding something. That night, I couldn't avoid the basement forever. I needed to know. I grabbed a flashlight, my hands slick. The key turned stiffly in the lock. The basement door creaked open. The air was cold, damp, smelling of earth and rust. I descended, the flashlight beam catching cobwebs. The box was there, untouched, in the corner where I'd left it. I opened it slowly, my breath shallow. The radio sat inside, its dial glinting. Relief hit me, then dread. It looked normal. Too normal. I shut the box, locked the basement door, and went upstairs. But as I reached my bedroom door, the static roared, loud enough to make me gasp. It wasn't in my head this time. It was real, pouring from my room. I pushed the door open, my heart hammering. The radio was on my bed. Its cord was still missing. Its speaker was gone, just a black hole in its face. But the static screamed, and the voices, they weren't whispering anymore. They were saying something else. Not my name. Something worse. You opened it. You let us in. I slammed the door shut, back down the hall. The static followed, seeping through the walls. It's in the walls now, the ceilings, my skin. Mrs. Hargrove's warning echoed, "Don't listen." But it's too late. I'm listening, and they know it. They're not just voices. There's something else. Something that's been waiting. The radio static was everywhere now, a hum that burrowed into my skull. I didn't sleep. I couldn't dare. The house wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the voices. I stayed in the living room, far from the bedroom where the radio sat, its speakerless face mocking me. The door was locked, but locks didn't matter. Not to this thing. Morning came, sluggish and gray. I needed help. Not a priest, not yet. I wasn't ready to admit that kind of crazy. But someone. I thought of Mrs. Hargrove again. Her warning had been real, raw. She'd known something. Maybe she knew how to stop it. I scribbled a note, "Gone to town," and taped it to my fridge. Pointless, maybe, but it felt like proof I still existed. I drove to her house, a sagging cottage at the edge of town. Her car was there, tires flat. I knocked, my breath uneven. No answer. I knocked again, louder. The door creaked open under my hand. Unlocked. My stomach twisted. Mrs. Hargrove? My voice echoed, small. Her living room was dim, curtains drawn. A teacup sat on the table, cold. The air smelled of dust and stale flowers. I called again, softer now. Something moved in the hallway, a flicker, like a shadow stretching wrong. I froze, my pulse loud. The static in my head surged, a wave that made my vision blur. Mrs. Hargrove? No answer, but the shadow moved again, closer. I backed toward the door, my hand fumbling for the knob. The static was deafening now, not just in my head but in the room. And then I heard it, her voice, faint, woven into the hiss. "Evelyn, you shouldn't have come." Not a warning. A lament. I ran, the door slamming behind me, the static chasing me to my car. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I drove aimlessly, the static a constant drone. My phone buzzed, no signal, just bars flickering. I tried calling a friend, anyone. Nothing but static, and my name, whispered over and over. I stopped at a coffee shop, desperate for noise, for people. I sat in a corner, nursing a latte, watching faces. They were normal, oblivious. But the static painted them wrong, their smiles too wide, their eyes too still. I opened my notebook, tried to write what was happening. My pen scratched nonsense, words looping into spirals. I tore the page out, my hands shaking. A barista glanced my way, concerned. I forced a smile, but the static laughed, sharp and cruel. It wasn't just voices now. It was something alive, something that knew me. I remembered Mrs. Hargrove's words. Bury it. I needed to destroy the radio to end this. But how? Smelt? I didn't dare touch it. I searched my phone, still no signal, for ways to destroy a cursed object. Nothing useful, just ghost stories and ads. The static mocked me, a low growl. You can't. Night fell. I had to go back. The house loomed, its windows dark. I parked in the garage, my flashlight beam shaky. The basement door was still there, unopened. I grabbed a shovel from the shed, my plan half-formed, buried the radio somewhere far. I unlocked the bedroom door, steeling myself. The radio wasn't on the bed. It was on the floor, its case split open, wires spilling like veins. The static roared, a storm of sound. I dropped the shovel, the beam catching something in the corner. A shadow, tall and thin, its edges writhing. It wasn't a shadow. It was something else, waiting. My name came again, not from the radio but from it. Evelyn. I screamed, stumbled back. The shadow moved, fast, its form blurring into the wall. The static pulsed, a heartbeat. I grabbed the radio, its metal cold, unnaturally heavy. I ran to the car, threw it in the trunk, and drove, the static screaming. I didn't know where I was going. Just away. I found a field, miles from town, empty and black under the stars. I dug, my hands blistering, the shovel biting earth. The static fought me, loud enough to shake my bones. I buried the radio deep, dirt piling high. The static didn't stop. It was in me now, a parasite, and the voices, they weren't just calling my name. They were telling me what they wanted. What I'd become. I drove back, the house dark and silent. The static was softer now, smug. I locked every door, checked every window. But as I passed the basement door, I heard it, a faint hiss, like a radio turning on. My blood froze. The shadow was down there. It was waiting. And I'd brought it back with me. The static owned me now. It wasn't just a sound, it was a weight, pressing into my thoughts, my breath. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The house was a trap, its walls breathing with that hiss. I'd buried the radio, shoveled dirt over its cursed shell, but it didn't matter. The shadow was here. It had always been here. I stayed downstairs, curled on the couch, a kitchen knife in my hand. The basement door loomed at the end of the hall, locked but mocking. Every creak in the house was a step. Every flicker of the light was a blink. The static hummed, low, patient, like it was waiting for me to break. Dawn came, pale and cold. I needed to leave. I didn't pack. I just grabbed my wallet, my phone, and the knife. The car was still in the garage, keys dangling. I'd drive far, to a city, somewhere loud with life. The static laughed, soft, as I reached for the front door. The lock wouldn't turn. I tried again, harder. Stuck. My breath caught. I checked the windows, sealed. The back door, same. My house didn't want to let me go. The static surged, a wave that made my head throb. I pounded the door, my knuckles raw, screaming for someone, anyone. The street outside was empty, the neighborhood silent. My phone, dead, its screen a static snow. I sat on the floor, knife trembling in my grip. The static whispered my name, slow, taunting. I thought of Mrs. Hargrove, her voice in her house, her shadow gone. Was she trapped too? Or worse? I pushed the thought away, but it clung sharp. I needed to fight. I couldn't bury the radio again, it hadn't worked. I remembered old stories, salt, iron, prayers. I didn't believe, but I was desperate. I grabbed salt from the kitchen, poured lines across every doorway, every window. The static hissed angry, but didn't stop. I clutched the knife, its blade a cold comfort. The basement called. I felt it, a pull, like a hand on my spine. The shadow was down there, waiting. I didn't want to go, but the house was shrinking, its walls closer, its air thick. I unlocked the basement door, my hands slick. The stairs groaned under my weight, the flashlight beam shaking. The basement was empty, just dirt and cobwebs. No radio, no box. But the static was deafening, a scream in my skull. I saw it then, the shadow, tall, its edges bleeding into the walls. It didn't move, but I felt its gaze heavy, knowing. My name came, not a whisper but a command. Evelyn. I swung the knife, wild, useless. The shadow laughed, a sound like static tearing. I ran, the stairs tripping me, the door slamming shut behind me. I locked it, salt scattering, but the shadow was upstairs now. I saw it in the living room, the kitchen, the mirror. It wasn't one, it was many, their forms twisting into mine. I hid in the bathroom, the knife dropped, my hands over my ears. The static was me now, my pulse, my breath. The voices weren't just calling, they were telling me truths I'd buried. Things I'd done, things I'd ignored. The shadow wasn't a stranger. It was me, or what I'd let in. I tried praying, words from childhood, broken and wrong. The static mocked, drowned them out. I scratched at the walls, my nails bloody, searching for a way out. The house didn't budge. It was alive, its heart the static, its hunger mine. Night came, or maybe it never left. The bathroom door rattled, slow, deliberate. I didn't scream, I had no voice left. The shadow was patient, its form seeping under the door, a black mist. My name faded, replaced by something older, something I couldn't understand. I don't know how long I've been here. The knife's gone, the salt's gone. The static's all I am now. The house doesn't need locks anymore, it's part of me. The shadow doesn't need to chase, it's in me. I hear it, clearer now, not just my name but my life, my secrets spilled like blood. The basement door's open again. I feel it, even here locked away. It's calling, not with words but with need. I don't want to go, but my feet move. The static pulls, gentle, inevitable. The shadow's waiting, and I know its face. It's mine. It's always been mine. The static was my world now. It wasn't sound, it was everything. My thoughts, my skin, my soul. The house didn't hold me, it was me. I stood at the basement door, my hand on the knob, the metal cold but alive. The shadow waited below, its presence a truth I couldn't deny. I'd opened something, that first night with the radio, and it had never closed. I didn't fight anymore. Fighting was for someone else, someone who still had a name. Evelyn was gone, eroded by the hiss. I turned the knob, the door creaking wide. The stairs stretched into black, the flashlight useless, its beam eaten by the dark. The static sang soft, a lullaby for what was left of me. I descended, each step a surrender. The basement air was thick, pressing against my lungs. The shadow was everywhere, walls, ceiling, floor, its forms shifting, countless but one. Mine. It didn't need to speak. The static did that, whispering my life, my choices, my lies. I'd thought I was alone. I'd never been alone. The radio was there, in the center of the dirt floor. Not buried, not broken. Whole, like it had never been touched. Its dial glowed, its speaker silent but alive, pulsing. I knelt beside it, my hands shaking, not with fear but with knowing. The static wasn't just in me, it was me, and I was it. The shadow wasn't a monster. It was what I'd hidden, what I'd always been. I touched the dial, the static flaring, a spark in my veins. The voices came, not whispers but screams, not my name but my truth. Every moment I'd turned away, every hurt I'd caused, every secret I'd kept. They weren't accusations, they were my reflection, sharp and unyielding. The shadow loomed, its edges my own. I tried to stand, to run, but my body didn't answer. The static held me, heavy, gentle. The house creaked, its walls sighing, its heart mine. I saw Mrs. Hargrove, her shadow gone, her voice trapped. I saw the man, the one who'd vanished, his static fading. They'd been here, like me, drawn to the radio's hiss, its promise. The shadow spoke, its voice my own, my mother's, a stranger's. You opened it. Not blame, just fact, a fact. The radio wasn't a thing. It was a mirror, showing what I'd invited. I turned it on, that night, seeking comfort, but I turned on myself. The static was my truth, my weight, my end. I closed my eyes, the shadow closer, its breath my own. The static softened, a hum now, almost kind. I saw moments, childhood summers, my mother's laugh, a friend I'd lost. They were mine, but not mine, twisted by the static, tainted by what I'd done. The shadow didn't judge. It just was. The radio clicked, a dial turning on its own, the static surged, a tide pulling me under. I didn't scream. I didn't need to. The shadow was me, and I was the shadow, and the house was us, its walls my skin, its darkness my heart. I felt the radio's pulse, its glow my eyes, the static my breath. I don't know if I'm still there, in that basement. Time doesn't exist in the static. The house is quiet now, or maybe I can't hear it anymore. The shadow's gone, or maybe it's all shadow. The radio's gone, but I feel it, dial turning, its hiss my voice. I whisper my name, not Evelyn but something else, something older, truer. I see the town now, from far away, the diner, the streets, the lights. They're moving, living, unaware. The house stands empty, waiting. Someone will come, find the radio, turn the dial. They'll hear the static, their name, their truth. The shadow wait, patient as patient as bone. I'm writing this, or maybe the static is, my words a hiss on paper, in air, the shadow's mine, and I'm its, and the house is ours. I don't fight, I don't run. The static's home, my truth. The radio's gone, and I'm the radio, and the shadow's gone, and I'm the shadow. The hiss is all there is now, and it's all I am. It's enough. The grinning glass. The attic smelled of dust and forgotten things. Old trunks sat heavy in the corners, their leather cracked like ancient skin. I'd come up here to find my grandmother's quilt, the one she'd stitched before I was born. The floorboards groaned under my boots, each step stirring motes that danced in the slanted light from the single window. I didn't like attics. Never had. Too many shadows, too many places for something to hide. But Mom insisted the quilt was here, and I wasn't about to argue with her. Not today. I moved a box of yellowed books, their pages curling like they were trying to escape. Behind it, I saw the mirror. It wasn't big, maybe 3 feet tall, with a frame of dark wood carved with vines that twisted into sharp points. It leaned against the wall, half covered by a tarp. I don't know why I pulled the tarp away. Curiosity, maybe? Or something else. Something that felt like a tug in my chest, like a hook pulling me closer. The glass was old, speckled with age spots, but clean enough to show my face. I looked tired. My hair was a mess, strands sticking to my forehead from sweat. I wasn't smiling, but my reflection was. A slow, crooked smile, like it knew something I didn't. My heart stuttered. I stepped back, boots scuffing the floor. The reflection didn't move. It just stood there, grinning, while I felt the air grow thick, pressing against my skin. I blinked. The smile was gone. My reflection was normal again, mimicking me perfectly. Just a tired girl in a dusty attic. I laughed, a shaky sound, and told myself it was nothing. A trick of the light. An overactive imagination. I'd been up here too long, breathing in the staleness. But my hands trembled as I reached for the tarp to cover the mirror again. I didn't want to look at it anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, save for the occasional creak of settling wood. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to shake the image of that smile. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Mirrors don't smile on their own. But the more I thought about it, the more I remembered the way the reflection's eyes had seemed wrong. Too bright, maybe? Too focused. Like they were looking through me, not at me. I got up, pulled on a sweater, and crept downstairs. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly, each second a hammer against my nerves. I poured a glass of water, drank half, and set it on the counter. The house felt different tonight. Not empty, but waiting. I glanced at the hallway mirror, the one Mom hung last summer. My reflection was there, normal, tired, just like me. I forced myself to look away. Back in bed, I closed my eyes, willing sleep to come. But I heard it, a faint tap, like a fingernail on glass. My eyes snapped open. The sound came again, sharper this time, from downstairs. I held my breath, listening. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, like someone testing a window pane. I told myself it was the house settling, or maybe a branch against the siding. But there were no trees close enough. And the air felt heavy again, like it had in the attic. I slipped out of bed, grabbing my phone for light. The hallway was dark, the kind of dark that makes you feel like you're being watched. I moved slowly, avoiding the creaky floorboard by the bathroom. The tapping grew louder as I reached the stairs. It wasn't coming from the kitchen or the living room. It was coming from the hallway mirror. I froze. My reflection stared back, lit by the glow of my phone. It looked like me, same sweater, same messy hair. But its head was tilted slightly, like it was studying me. I hadn't tilted my head. My pulse thundered in my ears. I wanted to run, to scream, but my feet were rooted to the floor. The reflection raised a hand, pressing it against the inside of the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The sound echoed in my skull. I stumbled back, nearly dropping my phone. The reflection didn't move. It just watched, hands still pressed against the glass, its eyes too bright, too knowing. I turned and ran, my bare feet slapping against the floor. I didn't stop until I was back in my room, door locked, blankets pulled over my head like a child. The tapping stopped. The house was silent again. But I didn't sleep. Morning came, gray and heavy with clouds. I avoided the hallway mirror, taking the long way to the kitchen. Mom was there, sipping coffee, oblivious to the way my hands shook as I poured cereal. I wanted to tell her about the mirror, about the attic, about the tapping. But what would I say? That my reflection smiled at me? That it moved on its own? She'd think I was losing it. Maybe I was. I spent the day cleaning, keeping busy, keeping my eyes off anything reflective. But I couldn't avoid it forever. That evening, I had to pass the hallway mirror to get to the bathroom. I kept my head down, focusing on the floor. But I felt it, those eyes watching. I glanced up, just for a second. My reflection was there, normal, except for one thing. It was holding my phone. I wasn't. I don't know how long I stood there, staring. My reflection stared back, clutching the phone I knew was in my pocket. Then it smiled again, that same crooked smile from the attic. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor, my back against the wall. The reflection didn't move. It just stood there, smiling, holding a phone that wasn't mine. I haven't gone near a mirror since. I covered the one in my room with a sheet. I avoid the bathroom unless I have to. But I can still feel it. Watching. Waiting. And sometimes, late at night, I hear it again. Tap. 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 Like it's trying to get out. I didn't tell Mom. I wanted to. But every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck like glue. She'd look at me with that worried frown, the one she used when I was a kid, and swore there was something under my bed. She'd say I was stressed, overtired, imagining things. Maybe she'd be right. But the weight of those eyes in the mirror, the way they followed me, felt too real to dismiss. I stayed away from the hallway mirror all day. I took the back stairs to the laundry room, kept my gaze on the floor when I passed the kitchen. Every reflective surface felt like a threat now. The toaster. The microwave door. Even the polished kettle on the stove seemed to glint with purpose. I caught myself holding my breath, waiting for something to move that shouldn't. By noon I was a wreck. My hands shook when I tried to eat a sandwich. The bread tasted like dust. I kept thinking about the attic mirror, the one that started it all. I needed to know if it was still there, if it was doing something. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the attic stairs, each step heavier than the last. The air up there was stale, thick with the scent of old wood and mildew. The mirror was where I'd left it, tarp half pulled to the side, its carved frame catching the flashlight's beam. I didn't want to look at the glass. But I had to. I angled the flashlight, keeping my eyes on the frame, the vines, anything but my reflection. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Slowly, I raised my eyes. The glass was empty. Not black, not foggy, just empty. No reflection at all, like I wasn't even there. My breath caught, a sharp hitch in my throat. I waved the flashlight. Nothing. The beam cut through the glass like it was a window to nowhere. I backed away, tripping over a box of old clothes. The flashlight clattered to the floor, its beam spinning wildly across the attic. Shadows danced, long and sharp, like fingers reaching. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed the light, and ran. The tarp stayed where it was. I wasn't going back to cover it. Downstairs, I locked myself in my room. The sheet over my bedroom mirror was still in place, but I checked it anyway, tugging the edges to make sure no glass peeked through. I sat on my bed, knees pulled to my chest, trying to think. Maybe the mirror was broken. Maybe it was some antique trick, like those old funhouse mirrors that distort everything. But that didn't explain the hallway. Or the phone. I pulled my phone from my pocket, half expecting it to be gone, like in the reflection. It was there, solid, real. I opened the camera, switched it to selfie mode. The screen showed my face, pale and wide-eyed. Normal. I tilted the phone, checking the background. Just my room, my bed, the covered mirror. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Then the screen flickered. Just for a second, like a glitch. My reflection's eyes were too bright again, glowing like they'd swallowed the light. I dropped the phone. It landed face down on the bed, and I didn't touch it for hours. When I finally did, the battery was dead. I plugged it in, but I didn't turn it on. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting in there, in the glass of the screen, ready to look back at me. That night, the tapping came again. Not from the hallway this time, but from my room. From the covered mirror. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, like a heartbeat. I lay still, blankets pulled tight, telling myself it was nothing. A pipe. A mouse. Anything but what I knew it was. The tapping grew louder, more insistent, like it was angry I wasn't looking. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing it to stop. It didn't. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I woke to silence. The sheet over the mirror was still in place, but the air felt wrong, heavy, like someone had been in the room. I checked my phone. It was on, even though I hadn't touched it. The camera app was open, the screen showing my sleeping face. I hadn't taken that photo. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall, the screen cracking. I didn't care. I couldn't stay in that room anymore. I grabbed my shoes, my jacket, and ran downstairs. Mom was in the kitchen, humming, making pancakes. She looked up, surprised, and asked why I was so pale. I mumbled something about not sleeping well and grabbed a plate. I didn't eat. I couldn't stay in the house. Not with the mirrors. Not with the tapping. I told Mom I was going for a walk. She nodded, told me to be back by dinner. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed out. The air outside was cold, sharp, grounding. I walked for hours, past the park, the library, the old gas station. But every window I passed felt like it was watching me. Every glint of glass felt like a trap. I didn't go home until dark. When I did, the hallway mirror was gone. Mom said she'd moved it to the garage. She didn't say why. I didn't ask. Mom didn't ask questions when I came home. She just handed me a plate of leftovers and went back to her book. I ate in silence, the fork scraping against the plate too loud in my ears. The house felt different without the hallway mirror. Lighter, maybe, but not safe. Not yet. I kept my eyes on my food, avoiding the kitchen window, the shine of the fridge door. Anything that could show my face. I didn't sleep much that night. Every creak made me jump, every shadow seemed to move. I kept the lights on, the sheets still over my bedroom mirror. The tapping didn't come, but that didn't mean anything. It was still out there, whatever it was. In the attic. In the garage. Waiting. Morning came too slow. I dragged myself downstairs, my eyes burning from lack of sleep. Mom was already gone, off to work. She'd left a note on the counter. Took the mirror to the garage. Call if you need me. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. I didn't want to think about the mirror, but I couldn't stop. The garage was detached, a squat building at the edge of our yard. I hadn't been in there since last summer, when I helped Dad clean out his old tools before he left. The thought of going in now made my stomach twist. But I had to know. I had to see if the hallway mirror was like the one in the attic. If it was, wrong. I grabbed a flashlight and a crowbar from the shed. Not that I knew what I'd do with it. Break the glass, maybe? Or just feel safer holding something heavy. The garage door creaked as I opened it, the sound sharp in the quiet morning. Inside it was dim, the air thick with the smell of oil and damp concrete. Tools lined the walls, rusted and forgotten. In the corner, under a tarp, was the mirror. I didn't pull the tarp off right away. I stood there, gripping the crowbar, my flashlight beam shaking. The tarp was blue, frayed at the edges, and it didn't cover the mirror completely. I could see the top of the frame, the same dark wood as the attic mirror, though the carvings were different. Faces, maybe? Or flowers? I couldn't tell. I didn't want to get closer. But I did. I set the crowbar down, my hands slick with sweat. I grabbed the tarp and yanked it off. The mirror stood there, tall and silent, its glass catching the flashlight's glow. My reflection looked back, normal at first. Same jacket, same tired eyes. I let out a breath. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe it was just a mirror. Then it moved. Not much, just a slight shift, like it was adjusting its stance. My reflection's head tilted, but I hadn't moved. My breath caught, a sharp pain in my chest. The reflection's eyes were too bright again, like they were lit from behind. It raised a hand, not to tap, but to point. At me. My legs felt like water, but I couldn't look away. The reflection's mouth opened, like it was trying to speak, but no sound came. I stumbled back, tripping over a toolbox. The flashlight fell, its beam spinning across the garage. My reflection didn't fall. It stayed standing, pointing, its mouth still moving. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed the crowbar, and swung. The glass shattered, the sound like a scream in the small space. Shards fell to the concrete, glinting like teeth. My reflection was gone. I stood there, panting, the crowbar heavy in my hands. The air felt lighter, like a storm had passed. But I didn't feel safe. I dropped the crowbar and ran, slamming the garage door behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if anything was still there, in the broken glass. Back in the house, I locked every door, every window. I checked the sheet over my bedroom mirror, tugged it tighter. I didn't know what else to do. The attic mirror was still up there, uncovered, waiting. I couldn't break it. Not yet. I wasn't brave enough. Mom came home that evening, her face tired but cheerful. She asked about my day, and I mumbled something about a walk. I didn't tell her about the garage, the crowbar, the glass. She'd see it eventually, but not today. I couldn't handle her questions, her worry. I just wanted to forget. But I couldn't. That night, the tapping came again. Not from my room, not from the garage. From the attic. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. Tap. 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 I lay in bed, eyes wide, listening. It wasn't angry this time. It was patient. Like it knew I'd come back. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just listened, waiting for morning, waiting for the sound to stop. It didn't. When the sun finally rose, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in this house anymore. Not with the mirrors. Not with whatever was in them. I packed a bag, left a note for Mom, and walked out the door. I didn't look at the windows as I left. I didn't want to see what might be looking back. I walked until my legs ached. The town was small, just a cluster of houses and shops around a single stoplight. I didn't know where I was going, just that I needed to be away from the house, the mirrors, the tapping. My backpack was heavy, stuffed with clothes, a water bottle, and a granola bar I hadn't touched. The air was cold, the kind that bites at your fingertips. I kept my eyes on the ground, avoiding the windows of the diner, the barber shop, the gas station. Every pane of glass felt like a door I didn't want to open. I ended up at the library. It was quiet, warm, with tall shelves that smelled of paper and time. I found a corner table, far from the windows, and sat. My hands were still shaking. I pulled out my phone, the cracked screen catching the light. I hadn't turned it on since the night it showed my sleeping face. I didn't want to now, but I needed to call someone. Anyone. I pressed the power button, holding my breath. The screen lit up, normal, no camera app, no glowing eyes. I exhaled, but my chest still felt tight. I called Sarah, my old friend from high school. She lived an hour away now, in a bigger town with coffee shops and traffic. Her voice was bright, surprised to hear from me. I didn't tell her about the mirrors. I just said I needed a place to crash for a few days. She didn't hesitate, just gave me her address and told me to come whenever. I felt a flicker of relief, but it didn't last. The library's windows were too close, too reflective. I kept my back to them. The bus ride to Sarah's was long, the seats sticky, and the air stale. I sat by the aisle, away from the window. The other passengers were quiet, heads down, lost in their phones or their thoughts. I envied them. I kept my hands in my pockets, my eyes on the floor. Every time the bus passed a reflective surface, a car window, a road sign, I felt it. The weight of eyes. I told myself I was being paranoid. I'd broken the hallway mirror. I'd left the attic mirror behind. It was over. But I didn't believe it. Sarah's apartment was small, cluttered with plants and mismatched furniture. She hugged me tight, her hair smelling of lavender. She asked if I was okay, said I looked like I hadn't slept in days. I shrugged, mumbled something about stress. She didn't push, just made me tea and gave me the couch. I was grateful for her. For the normalcy. But I couldn't relax. Not really. That night, I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Sarah's apartment was dark, save for the glow of a streetlight sneaking through the blinds. I heard her snoring softly from the next room. The sound should have been comforting, but it wasn't. The air felt heavy again, like it had in the attic, in the garage. I sat up, my heart racing. The apartment was small, but it had mirrors. A big one in the bathroom. A small one by the door. I hadn't noticed them when I arrived, but now they felt like traps. I got up, moving quietly. The bathroom door was ajar, the mirror catching the streetlight's glow. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. I grabbed a towel from the rack and draped it over the glass, my hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. The small mirror by the door was next. I used one of Sarah's scarves, tying it tight. She'd think I was crazy if she saw, but I didn't care. I needed to feel safe. Back on the couch, I tried to sleep. But the tapping came again. Faint at first, barely audible over the hum of the fridge. Tap. 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 I froze, my breath shallow. It was coming from the bathroom. I'd covered the mirror, but it didn't matter. Whatever it was still there. I pulled the blanket over my head, like a kid scared of the dark. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a call. I don't know how long I lay there, listening. The tapping didn't stop, but it didn't get closer either. It just stayed steady, patient. Like it knew I couldn't run forever. When morning came, I was still awake, my eyes gritty, my body heavy. Sarah was up, making coffee, oblivious to the towel on her mirror. She asked if I slept okay. I lied, said I did. She didn't notice the scarf by the door. I couldn't stay. I thanked her, hugged her, and left. She looked worried, but she didn't stop me. I walked to the bus station, my backpack heavier than before. I didn't know where I'd go next. Somewhere without mirrors. Somewhere safe. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about the mirrors anymore. It was about me. Whatever was in the glass, it had seen me. It knew me. And it wasn't letting go. I didn't go far. The next town was smaller, a speck on the map with a motel that smelled of cigarette smoke and cheap cleaner. I paid for a room in cash, avoiding the clerk's eyes, avoiding the glass behind the counter. The room was small, with a sagging bed and a tiny bathroom. No mirror. I checked twice, running my hands along the walls like I might find one hidden. There was nothing. For the first time in days, I breathed a little easier. I dropped my backpack on the floor and sat on the bed. The springs creaked, loud in the quiet. I was tired, bone-deep tired, but I didn't want to sleep. Sleep felt like letting my guard down, like inviting it in. I pulled out my phone, the cracked screen dark. I hadn't charged it since Sarah's. I didn't want to see what might be waiting in the glass. The motel was quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. It was the kind that makes you strain to hear something, anything, to prove you're not alone. I lay down, keeping the light on. The ceiling was stained, yellow patches spreading like mold. I tried to focus on that, on anything but the weight in my chest. But it was there, heavy, pressing. Like eyes I couldn't see. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I woke to the tapping. Slow, deliberate, coming from the bathroom. My heart lurched. I checked. There was no mirror. I sat up, the room spinning. Tap. 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 It wasn't loud, but it filled the space, echoing in my skull. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold it. The bathroom door was closed. I didn't remember closing it. I stood, my legs unsteady, and crept toward the door. The tapping didn't stop, didn't speed up. It just kept going, patient, waiting. I pressed my ear to the door, the wood cold against my skin. The sound was clearer now, like a fingernail on glass. But there was no glass. I checked. I opened the door, slow, the hinges creaking. The bathroom was dark, the flashlight's beam cutting through the shadows. The sink, the toilet, the chipped tile. No mirror. But the tapping didn't stop. It was louder now, coming from the wall above the sink. I raised the flashlight, my arm trembling. The wall was bare, just peeling paint and a faint outline, like something had been there once. A mirror, maybe, removed before I checked in. But the outline wasn't empty. It shimmered faintly, like heat rising off pavement. And in that shimmer, I saw it. My face. Not a reflection, not really. Just my face, floating in the wall, smiling that crooked smile. I screamed, dropping the flashlight. It hit the tile, the beam flickering out. The room was dark, but I could still see it, my face, glowing faintly, watching. I stumbled back, hitting the doorframe, my hands scrabbling for the light switch. When the light came on, the wall was empty again. Just paint and cracks. No face. No shimmer. But the tapping kept going, steady, mocking. I didn't stay. I grabbed my backpack and ran, out of the room, out of the motel, into the night. The clerk called after me, but I didn't stop. The road was dark, the stars hidden by clouds. I walked, my breath ragged, my shoes crunching on gravel. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to move, to keep ahead of whatever was following me. But it wasn't following. It was already there. In every window I passed, every puddle on the ground. I saw it in the glass of a parked car, in the shine of a street sign. My face, smiling, always smiling. I stopped looking. I kept my eyes on my feet, on the road, on anything that didn't reflect. But I could feel it. Watching. Waiting. I don't know how long I walked. Hours, maybe. The town gave way to fields, then woods. The air was colder now, the kind that seeps into your bones. I found a bench by a bus stop, abandoned, rusted. I sat, my backpack beside me, and tried to think. I couldn't go home. I couldn't go to Sarah's. I couldn't keep running. But what else was there? The tapping came again, faint, from somewhere behind me. I didn't turn. I didn't want to see. I closed my eyes, my hands clenched into fists. The sound grew louder, closer, until it was right in my ears. Tap. 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 Like it was inside me now. I opened my eyes, and there it was, in the darkness behind my lids. My face, smiling, waiting. I don't know what it wants. But I know it's not done. It's in me now, in the glass, in the air. And no matter where I go, it's there. Watching. Smiling. Tapping.